My name's Lucy McCauley, and my family comes from Wilmington, North Carolina. Um, Actually, it turns out both sides of my family come from Wilmington, North Carolina. They landed there, and they all came from Scotland and Ireland, both sides, and the names were McCauley, Polk, McCoy, Barry, Ankrum, Hall, Usher. And those are just some of the names. There's some more, but those are the ones that I'm most familiar with. Um, so, I didn't find out that my family enslaved people until I was grown and had a family of my own. And it came as quite a shock. And, of course, in retrospect, it's like, why should I have been shocked about that? But, and part of it is just, we were told so many stories about our family that were just very glowing. And, I guess, yeah, people just, they decided, yeah, we're just going to leave out that part in the family stories. So I said that they all came from Scotland and Ireland, and ironically, it was pride in those Scottish ancestors that, and maybe that's not an irony, but who had settled this town, Wilmington, North Carolina, and of course the Scottish, they enslaved lots of people. And it was that pride that ultimately contributed to the Wilmington massacre and coup d'etat that happened in 1898. The white old elite, Scots families mostly, like mine, and that was the McCoys and the Barrys and the Ankrams, felt entitled to this town they had settled and were very threatened when the Black community really started to succeed there. I mean, it was quite remarkable. It was over 50% of the population was Black, and they were elected officials and part of the professional community on November 9th, 1898, and then on November 10th, 1898, that's when people were slaughtered and run out of town. And it was, these white professional old family class, like my great grandfather, William Barry McCoy, just couldn't stand it. It's like they just couldn't stand the level of wealth that was being acquired in the Black community, and it wasn't just in Wilmington. I mean, this was a statewide campaign villainizing, African American males especially, and that's kind of the tack they took to kind of get everybody on board with this. But really, it was all about just getting power and wealth back. So my mother's side are the McCoys and Barrys, and they stayed in North Carolina and had farms and small plantations. From what I've been able to determine, all less than 100 slaves, but it went back for generations. So, we're talking a lot of people who were enslaved back to the 1700s. And I have found one DNA linked descendant going back from one of those families, the Ushers, and we traced it back. The two of us together, we worked together to trace it back to the Ushers who arrived in 1700. So I'm able now to help with that family line for her information. And we met via Zoom. We met through Coming to the Table because she was part of our Wilmington group. And, and she brought up the names at one point. And so I was like, Usher. And she's going to visit me this summer. So And then on my dad's side, the McCauleys, they had plantations and slaves in the Triangle area of North Carolina, and actually part of that family gave, some part of it gave the land for UNC Chapel Hill, okay, where I ended up going later, but that's neither here nor there, really. Later, that whole family, or a lot of them, moved west, and they went to Tennessee, Kentucky, Texas. And I did not know that besides in North Carolina, that they had continued that tradition of enslaving people once they left, but they did. And the way I found out was through 23andMe, doing a DNA test. And I did that test specifically to go online and see, try to find my linked descendants, to try to find people who had been enslaved by my family, who, you know, cousins. I wanted to find my cousins. And I found one, and I was like, you know, of course this is going to be through my maternal line. No, no, no. It was through my paternal line. And it was a Polk, who was, you know, one of the McCauley tree. And he had gone to, now I can't remember if it was Kentucky or Tennessee, but he had had a farm. And this woman that I met through 23andMe is descended directly from that man. And she's come and visited my house. We're in contact all the time, and we call each other cousin. You know, we're probably third, fourth cousins. And what have I done about all of this? The enslavement part, I still want to figure out. I mean, our group, our Coming to the Table group in Wilmington, is working really hard on trying to get reparations of all kinds to happen. And one thing specifically for me, especially when I found out my great-grandfather was involved in the coup and the massacre, was that I wanted to use my inheritance from his house to, I got a portion of that to create something, a scholarship. And so I did that, working with an African-American family in town who had, their ancestor had built the house. And he was part of this family of African-American builders in Wilmington. And it's called, they were the Hows, Howe. And so we have a scholarship now named after the Hows. And we're giving out the first award this year. Yeah. So that's all.